probably the best Republican town that we have in the county, and we're very fortunate to have good leadership there, and we're going to return that leadership back for another 2 more years. And the thing I'd like to mention the fact that we know we're doing well in Stony Point, because June always tells us that once every month. Everything is fine in Stony Point. And it is. It is. Just to give you some facts, this was one of the few towns that John McCain won. Matter of fact, Carl Palladino even won it in Stony Point. So it's a great place to kick off a campaign. And without further ado, I'd just like to introduce our next guest speaker. Maybe needs a little bit more introduction, and that's our candidate for Congress. And once again, Rockland is fortunate enough to be one whole county with one congressman, instead of splitting us up into 3 as they have for the past 10 years. And we have 3 separate congressmen, and nobody paid attention to us. Now we're going to have one congressman, and we're going to make sure he gets elected. Now let me just tell you a few facts about him. Number 1, the man speaks 5 languages. Number 2, he is the supervisor of Rye Town in Westchester County, has never took a salary, and is looking to do away with his own job to consolidate. This is the kind of guy we want. He's a businessman, very well respected in the business community. I know he's going to do well. Rockland will deliver. Nice warm move for our next Congressman, Joe Carvin.
Thank you so much. First and foremost, I want to thank Senator Larkin. First of all, I want to thank Senator Larkin for his service, his wartime service, and his service to our community over several decades. If anybody had any doubt about what makes America great, they heard that speech from Senator Larkin. Senator Larkin is exactly the kind of person, exactly the kind of public official that made our nation great. Thank you. And as Senator Larkin pointed out, it's not the number of years of service, it's what you're doing with that service. Senator Larkin has been fighting the good fight for several decades. The good fight to make our government responsive, to make our government efficient, to reduce your taxes, to support the private sector, because he knows who the job creators are. He knows where those sustainable jobs are created. Senator Larkin has been fighting the good fight ultimately for you and your future. I decided to run for office because this is clearly the most important election of our lifetime. I want to give the people of the 17th Congressional District a choice between a very different vision than they've been getting for the last 24 years, and a choice between a very different life experience than our current congressperson. Our nation is very clearly at a crossroads, and the stakes are very, very high. The people of the 17th Congressional District have a very clear choice. They can vote for somebody who favors more government spending, which I think will just continue to destroy jobs, bankrupt our nation, and take us down the path of Greece. That's how high the stakes are. Or they can vote for somebody who's going to work very hard to make our nation strong again, so we can compete in an intensely competitive global environment of the 21st century. They can vote for somebody who's increased spending every year for 24 years, or they can vote for somebody who decreased expenditures by 25% in 4 years. They can vote for somebody who's increased taxes every year they've been involved exponentially over 24 years, or they can vote for somebody who's reduced taxes every year they've been in office. They can vote for somebody who's added government program after government program after government program. You know, Senator Coburn has written a new book called The Debt Bomb. He's been trying ever since he's been in office to figure out how many federal government programs there are. Do you know no one could tell him? You know, do you know the U.S. federal government has not produced audited financial statements for over 10 years? President Obama and Congressman Lowy haven't really produced a budget in the last 4 years, and they're borrowing 40 cents on every dollar? Well, I can tell you as a humble town supervisor, if I tried to do that, I would be intervened by the New York State Comptroller, or at least I would have been if Harry Wilson were elected. Our children's future, in my view, unfortunately, is being stolen. Federal expenditures equate to taxes. Taxes today or taxes tomorrow. 36% of our expenditures today are borrowed. Where are they borrowed from? The Chinese. How long do we think we can do that? How long do we think we can say saying that? We can't. Ultimately, we need to meet the challenges of today. We need to meet the challenges of the 21st century. You know, a lot of talk in Washington about ultimately, you know, the partisanship, the bickering, the fighting. We need to change that tone. Senator Larkin recognized and talked about, we're all Americans. We're not Republican Americans, Democrat Americans, we're not white Americans, black Americans, Jewish Americans, Italian, we're all Americans. We need to bring this country together to meet the challenges of the 21st century. It's very clear we're at a moment of truth. Let me read a couple of things to you. Throughout our nation's history, Americans have found the courage to do right by our children's future. Deep down, every American knows we face a moment of truth once again. We cannot play games or put off hard choices any longer. Without regard to party, we have a patriotic duty to keep the promise of America, to give our children and grandchildren a better life. That's not a Republican, that's not a Democrat statement, that's a bipartisan statement from President Obama's Fiscal Commission. What else do they say? Our challenge is clear and inescapable. America cannot be great if we go broke. The problem is real, the solution will be painful. There's no easy way out. America's long-term gap is unsustainable. If the U.S. does not put its house in order, the reckoning will be sure and the devastation severe. The choice is clear. We keep increasing spending. If we put more and more debt burden on our people, which is unsustainable, we will go down the path of grease. We will continue to destroy jobs. Yesterday we got an unemployment rate. The headline number is 8.3%. But the real number you need to look at is the unemployment rate for people who are discouraged workers, who are working part-time and want to work full-time. That number went from 14.9% to 15%, a 15% unemployment rate. This is the greatest challenge since the Great Depression. The fiscal crisis has very clearly become a jobs crisis. I'm running for office because I think the American people deserve better. I think I'm running for office because the American people deserve the truth. I'm running for office because we need to keep more money in your pocket, more money in the pockets of entrepreneurs. We need to support private sector business people. We don't need to give them that. We need to understand who creates the sustainable jobs in our communities. That's very clearly the private sector. That's why I'm running. And basically, I've had a good opportunity to live on 5 different continents. I've learned 5 different languages along the way. I have 30 years business and financial experience, mostly in emerging markets. I've seen firsthand the competitions that we're having across the globe, the intensely competitive global environments. It's very clear to me, if we don't change course, we will be Greece. However, if we do change course, if we do change course, if we trust in the American people, if we trust in the ability for them to meet the challenges of our 21st century, they will solve them. There's never been a challenge that America hasn't faced that we haven't overcome throughout our 236 years of history. And I'm confident that if politicians like Senator Larkin are prepared to tell the American people the truth, are prepared to tell the people what the challenge is, we will overcome those challenges. And if we do, we can create a new future for our children, a future in keeping that promise that we need to keep for our children and grandchildren, the American promise, an era of rising expectations rather than declining expectations. I believe our best years are ahead of us, but you know what? I'm going to need everyone in this room to work with us on this most important election. I was talking to the township Mike Dolan earlier. The reason Lyndon Johnson was called Landslide Johnson is because he won his first congressional race with 7 votes. 7 votes. 7 votes. That means everybody in this room today can make a fundamental difference in terms of changing the future of our nation for the better. I'm prepared to work 24/7, everywhere, every time. I get back at the same time Senator Larkin when I get back. Now the same conversation with my wife. But at the end of the day, we'll work 24/7. If you guys give us the same commitment, the same energy, and the same effort, We will turn this nation around. We will keep our nation strong. We will compete in the 21st century, make a better world for all humanity on earth. Thank you.